Today, I felt called to share some deeper insights into the powerful and sensitive work that we do with plant medicine. In this video, I'm going to share with you three things. Number one, upgrades that are available to the quality of the human experience. Number two, what we do differently at Behold Retreats, and perhaps more importantly, why we do things differently and some of the subtle nuances around that. And number three, what needs to be true in order for you to be able to attend one of our plant medicine retreats. So let's start by talking a little bit about the nature of reality and improvements that are available to the quality of the human experience. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably left school somehow feeling not good enough. And the reality is many of us are still carrying that feeling through our lives. Now, we all have our own traumas to heal from. We all have our own limiting beliefs, and we all have our own stories. But I'm not going to really go into that today because I want to focus on the art of the possible. Now, in spiritual communities, there's a lot of talk about humanity's transition from the 3D to the 5D. But that can sound a little abstract and meaningless. So I wanted to make the 5D more tangible and explain some of the improvements that are available to your perception and your quality of life. Fundamentally, this is a journey in which we remember that the quality of our perception is our quality of life, nothing less and nothing more. So here's some of the improvements that I believe are available to all of us and how we can all further attune ourselves to the nature of reality and thereby improve the quality of our decision-making and the quality of our lives. Now, I'd like to start with the mind. Now, most of us in the modern world, we have highly active and even overwhelmed minds. The science shows that most people have between 12,000 and 60,000 thoughts per day. 95% of those thoughts are repetitive, and 85% of those thoughts are negative. So we're thinking all of the time the same things and mostly bad things. Now, of course, it's possible to have a much more peaceful mind and to have a lot less thoughts going on and more constructive and positive thoughts. But that's a transition that takes some time and energy to make. Second, I'd like to talk about the body. Now, many of us are not taking care of our body. We're eating bad food. We're not exercising. We have perhaps a lot of unprocessed trauma stored in our bodies, and dysregulation of the nervous system is quite common. So that might take the form of anxiety or depression, or equally, it might take place, whenever there's any challenges, you feeling kind of this fight or flight response. You don't want to be in any challenging situations. And that can also lead to, coping mechanisms like eating and avoidance and, binging Netflix, all of those sorts of things. That's all trauma response. Now, of course, what's possible is that we begin to treat our body like the temple that it is, and that we actually relax our nervous system. I was probably 35 years old before I was able to truly relax my nervous system for the first time. And it was, wow, game changer, real miracle. It felt like my ear had been unplugged for the first time in my life, but it was a full body experience. Third, I'd like to talk a little bit about the heart. Now, most of us in the world, our heart isn't naturally open. Many of us have had that experience, but we don't necessarily feel love every day, or the love that we do feel has some conditions around it. And what's possible as we shift towards the 5D is that we work more towards unconditional love. And when our heart is open, then we have a much stronger intuition, which improves the quality of our decision-making. Fourth, I'd like to talk a little bit about spirit. Now, many of us may have a faith, may have a belief system, but we don't necessarily feel a very strong connection up to our higher self, to our spirit. And when that happens, then our why, our purpose, often also is a little bit affected, a little bit weakened. And so our motivation is also weakened. And now when we feel more connected to spirit and we feel inspired, then things in life tend to have a lot more momentum about them, and we tend to feel a lot more excited about daily life. Fifth, I wanted to talk about DNA. Now, DNA is not something that we generally consider in our everyday life, but really it is at a deep and fundamental level. It's the gateway to our complete expression. It's the gateway to our divinity, and it's the gateway to our destiny. And so the more that we can unlock and activate the DNA that exists within our body, the greater expression we will ultimately be. A little bit around perception. Now, most of us walk around in this 3D world giving primacy to density, to the outer world. And many of us have this deep feeling that things will be okay when. So, maybe it's some relationship, maybe it's some career success, maybe it's some amount of money in the bank, maybe it's when we own such and such a house, things that relate to the outer world, that things will be okay when. And my experience is that that's an endless game. You can never win that game. We need to feel okay on the inside before we can be content with what's going on the outside. And so when we're experiencing reality in that way, We tend to experience duality, a lot of, this is good, this isn't good, this is bad. There's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of doubt in the system. And as we move more towards the 5D, we experience perhaps oneness for the first time, which is to understand that, everything in the universe is ultimately one and it's all interconnected. And once we understand that, then it's much easier to be less judgmental. And it's much easier to put a lot more faith and trust in the process that's unfolding, the process of life. And equally, we also begin to look at life and everything that's happening through more of an energetic lens rather than through a material lens. It's not that having an argument with someone relates to who and what they are, but it relates to the energy that exists between those two people. And of course, we understand that, but we don't always embody that understanding when we're actually living it, and we actually see other people as at fault when, at a basic level, that's not true. Everything exists in relationship. When we are more in the kind of 3D, then we tend to prioritize ourselves. It's really all about ego. It's all about what's mine. When we move more towards the 5D, it's all about service to the whole, or much more about service to the whole. When we talk about, and we talk much more about, collective abundance, collective wealth, rather than just me, me, me. When it comes to success and abundance, when we're operating more from a 3D mentality, and focus more on materiality, then things can feel a little bit kind of like an exhausting and endless pursuit. And when we move more to the 5D, then success, fulfillment, and abundance are really inherent in the system. It's just part of what life is. So as we discover more of who and what we truly are, then the success and abundance comes just as a reflection of who we are. It's natural. Now, in terms of location, when we're in the 3D, then we feel like we're stuck in the matrix. We're beholden to this system, this paradigm that we're currently living in. And once we move more into the 5D, we can kind of recognize, wow, this is paradise on earth here. We have an incredible opportunity to adapt as a species into a more loving way of life. And we can begin to remember the magic of life and nature as well, and spend more time, out in the forest, out in the jungle, swimming, just re-engaging with the elements and feeling all the magic that they can bring into our lives. So health and spirituality is really all about remembering that things are okay as they are. And paradoxically, from this understanding, we will feel much more motivated actually to self-improve, and we can much more meaningfully apply ourselves to making things better. The true source of power is accepting what is and loving what is, and that process can only begin with self-acceptance and self-love. So we can never be happy with the outside world until we're happy with the inside world. And a lot more people are coming to recognize that in the world today. It's really, really not about what's going on out there. It's all about what's going on out in here, and that is being reflected out there. There's a quote I came across recently that I thought summarized this perfectly, which is that your soul is for the benefit of mankind. To me, this quote represents the complete inversion of our societal priorities in the way that we are living today. As we reveal the unique and natural gifts that each of us have and bring those gifts to bear to the world, success and abundance are a certainty for everyone. Now, I don't know about you, but in my school, we never learned anything about how to manage thoughts, how to manage emotions, or how to connect with spirit. And of course, all of these things can be achieved without plant medicine. But under the right conditions, plant medicine can really help us access more of ourselves and speed up our evolution. So if this makes sense to you so far and you're ready to expand and become more of a 5D human, you're in the right place. Moving on to what we do differently at Behold Retreats, and more importantly, why we do things differently. Without going into details, I had a really hard time on my first plant medicine retreat. In the years that followed, I came to recognize that there was a lot missing from the experience. I wasn't well prepared, there wasn't much support, and I wasn't guided in my integration. I felt like another butt on another seat on another retreat, to be honest with you. And because of the lack of guidance, I left my first retreat more confused than I have ever been in my life. And I wasn't really sure where to turn. Now, after years of my own work, and upon really understanding what was missing from my first experience, I received a clear message and guidance to establish Behold Retreats to provide the support and the guidance that I wished was there for me. The result is that we do this work in a way that fosters a safe, sacred, and supported environment. In practical terms, this means, number one, safety first. We orient our services around you and your intentions, not a retreat. You will have plenty of one-to-one time with us to help you prepare for the retreat, on the retreat, and to help you in your integration process after the retreat. We select each of our guests individually, and we do in-depth safety screening. A loose cannon on a retreat can really reduce the quality of the experience for everyone. And finally, we host small groups for deep and focused work and lasting results. Big groups of 20+ people in ceremony can often be chaotic. and doesn't allow for much time with the medicine guides. You really don't want to be bumping into new people at the salad bar on the 6th day of your retreat. Large groups may work well for indigenous tribes who have been doing this work for generations. But for those of us who are Westerners flying down for a first plant medicine retreat, we need a lot more attention than that. Number 2, sacred reciprocity and energetics. Now, we maintain absolute respect for your faith and belief systems. And while we may share spiritual insights that could be valuable to you, we welcome all faiths and we push no specific ideology. So there's a big difference between an energetic push and an invitation to consider new spiritual ideas. And that's very important to us. We provide vetted, valued, and well-rested facilitators and medicine guides. Now, it's an open secret in the plant medicine ecosystem that a lot of medicine guides are underpaid, and a lot of the staff at retreat centers are actually unpaid volunteers. That may be good for business, but if your hosts feel resentment or unvalued, that energy will find its way into the ceremonies in some way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not saying this to be judgmental, just something for you to be aware of. Spiritually protected ceremonies. Now, when medicine guides are well rested and well valued, they are able to hold the space with a higher vibration and to provide you more energetic support and guidance so that you can access your higher dimensions. Now, terms like efficiency don't really belong alongside plant medicine work, but it's not really about how many plant medicine retreats you do, but rather it's about the healing that you can achieve within a retreat and your ability ultimately to confirm your divinity for yourself. And under the right conditions, that doesn't take 10 years. Finally, we're in humble service to spirit, the greater good, and honoring, of course, the indigenous cultures and the plant medicine teachers. Now, I don't think that necessarily makes us any different from anyone else out there, but it is an important dynamic. Now, third, we want you, of course, to feel supported throughout your journey. So we provide a holistic approach to help you define and achieve your intentions and goals. You will be having private one-to-one check-ins pre and post-retreat to make sure that you are given every chance for success through your experience. And we will also teach you practical tools, guidance, and provide community support to help you integrate your experience. We also have expert coaches and therapists available. Highly recommend that if you are attending a retreat, that you work with a coach or with a therapist. It's really how to get the most out of this work. And we also provide private retreats for those who are in a position to do so and who are seeking more flexibility and really ready to go deep. Now, most people start this work with group work, but once you understand what's really possible with private work, focused attention from healers over a longer duration and ceremony, very few people go back in the other direction. I've spent a lot of my life savings on coaching and private plant medicine work, and it's easily the best money I've ever spent. As far as I'm concerned, investing against your ego is the best investment in the universe for a few different reasons. Number one, you only ever experience yourself. Yes, it's all one. Number two, nothing external can ever make you feel good enough. You can only do that through doing the inner work. And number three, the ultimate luxury in life is a clear mind and an open heart. Nothing more, nothing less. What needs to be true in order to attend one of our retreats? Now, first and foremost, you need to be ready for deep and personal work. That's, of course, for you to decide. If you're looking for some help deciding whether or not you're ready for plant medicine, I'll link to some content below. Second to that, we need to confirm that it's going to be safe and beneficial for you. Again, if you'd like some help here, I'll be linking to relevant content on safety and benefits and how to consider whether or not this could be right for you. And then finally, we have to be an energetic fit, which requires a discovery call, a good old-fashioned human-to-human conversation, so that we can ensure we maintain integrity of our retreats. Now, given the personalized nature of the way that we do this work, our small groups honoring the value of our expert plant medicine guides, our prices are a little bit higher than typical retreat providers. Our private retreats begin at $22K USD, and our group retreats range between $4.6K USD and $8.5K USD. Our coaching packages vary, and that depends upon your individual need. Now, that being said, our discovery calls are not sales calls. We are extending an invitation to those of you who are truly ready for deep self-improvement work and for whom we believe we can substantially help. Another word on coaching and therapy before I close. Whether or not you work with one of our coaches or therapists, I cannot recommend enough that you work with one. Mental and emotional work alongside plant medicine makes an enormous difference to the results that you achieve and the lasting improvements that you can make to your consciousness and your quality of life. You'll be learning tools to help you manage your mind and your emotions so that you can continue your self-improvement journey without the requirement for a coach or the requirement for plant medicine. This work is all about helping you learn how to navigate this multidimensional miracle that you are driving and to help you see more about who and what you truly are. Fair warning, once you start making big improvements, it's hard to stop because self-discovery is what life is all about. So if you're ready for a big shift and are looking for a high-quality healing retreat and deep spiritual work, we are here to serve. Sending you love, sending you blessings, and a huge aloha. Wishing you a lovely day. Ciao.